Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here with you. When I first learned this practice, some of the experiences I had were a little confusing, and it took me a long time to understand what it was I was doing with these various practices. I knew I was here to lessen my suffering and to increase my joy and the joy and suffering of people around me, but I wasn't quite sure that I was doing it right. And when I began to have an understanding of my biology and my nervous system in particular, things became more clear to me, and so I wanted to pass that on to you in this very short, oversimplified version of what happens in our practice inside our body and our mind. So here I am in miniature. This is me, or any of you, because we're all humans. We all have pretty much the same nervous system. And so I wanted to introduce you to the parts of the nervous system. What we're usually aware of is our brain, and particularly this gray matter that we use to think with. It's a very thin covering on what goes inside of it, and it's responsible for our language, our story memory, our ability to problem solve and be creative, our language, basically all the things that we learn on purpose. And then deep inside of this little covering, we'll take this off and look deep inside, there's our limbic system, or our emotional brain. And this emotional brain is the gatekeeper for all of our nervous system. It's always looking around for any signs of threat. And it sends signals to the thinking brain when everything is calm and safe, and it sends signals to our survival brain when there's a threat. So let's take a look at the survival brain. It's back here in the brainstem, and it's associated with, all of our vital organs, our lungs, our heart, our stomach, digestion, our adrenal glands on top of our kidneys, our intestines, even our reproductive organs underneath that fig leaf. So when the limbic system, this emotional brain, senses that there's danger or perceives there's danger, even if it's just a mistake, it sends a signal down here to the survival organs to speed up in order to fight off the threat or to run away from it. So these things are taking their cue from whatever this emotional brain perceives. And at the same time, this poor thinking brain on top doesn't function very well. It kind of flips its lid when there's a threat. But fortunately, if we learn to calm this part of our body, then we send signals back up. Oh, it's actually okay. And this part relaxes, and this part comes back online. So these three parts work together to keep us safe and to then be available for all the thinking, all the problem solving that we need. Unfortunately, our nervous system developed as it is today about 10,000 years ago. It's evolved to keep a hunter-gatherer safe and healthy, procreating and enjoying life. It's not made to be looking at non-stop stressors. Usually the nervous system of a hunter-gatherer has some kind of threat, and it fights it off, or it runs away, or it does whatever it's going to do, and then it can relax. It can shake off whatever is left inside of those hormones that empower our muscles. And it has a time to recuperate. But in today's world, we don't have that. We have non-stop stressors. And so this part here begins to overdevelop and perceive things that are threatening when there are no threats or when the threat has passed. So let's look at the nervous system on the board. So this practice says that if we sit quietly and notice what is going on inside of us, that we are able to see things more clearly because we have a calm mind and we're concentrated. We're at an optimal place inside for seeing things exactly as they are. So if we say that this area here, this window, is where the cerebral cortex is functioning, we can notice where we are energetically. We may feel low energy. When we wake up, we do something, we get a little more energy. Something happens and we get excited. Then we work hard and our energy wanes. But in this arena, we have all the normal feelings: sadness, happiness, irritation, but we're not carried away by them. So even though we may be a little bit sad, we're not carried away in a river of sadness. In this arena, we can handle things. We're not so low energy that our mind turns off. We're not so high energy that our mind is racing, that our body is tense. In this area here, we can call it the window of mindfulness. That's where we can see things most accurately. And this is the region that we're sitting in when we do our sitting meditation, or when we're doing our walking meditation or our eating meditation, is that we can have various mind states, we can have various body states, but they're manageable enough that this cerebral cortex, this thinking brain, is in charge. Sometimes something will happen from the outside or from the inside, a thought, that will push us out of this mindful zone. There's a perception that there's a threat, where the threat could be physical, or the threat could just be like having a thought, I'll never be able to do this, and then getting very anxious, and we pop out of this window up here, and in that moment, this thing takes over. And this thing energizes the body so that we can fight off or run away. But that's actually not something that's helpful in the moment when we're at work or we're sitting or whatever is happening. We become irritable, impulsive, maybe we become over anxious or angry, but we don't feel like we're in charge. We're actually hijacked by our nervous system. Our muscles get tense, our breathing gets fast, our heart rate speeds up, our thoughts are going in a way that they're not useful. And then we need tools that can bring us back. If we are aware of our bodies, we constantly checking in with our bodies to see if this is happening, then when this happens, we know, let's take some deep breaths. Let's notice what's happening so that we can bring ourselves back in here. There are other times when the same kinds of outer or inner impulses happen, and we dive down into this kind of despair, a sadness or a hopelessness or a terror so big that it's freezing us, then again we notice in our bodies, oh, I'm feeling numb. Oh, I feel like I can't move. Oh, nothing matters anymore. I feel hopeless. Then we know that it's necessary to have tools to bring us up in here so that we can be mindful. Well, let's look at kind of a Buddhist version of this. So let's look at what we call right effort in our practice. Here we have a diagram of our consciousness. It's in two parts. Down here in the basement is our store consciousness, where we have all the possible mind states. Those that are wholesome, like happiness, joy, gratitude, generosity, and those that are unwholesome, like anger and greed and lust, things like that. Wholesome seeds are those that create joy, and unwholesome seeds are those that create suffering. And something happens, and these seeds are called up into consciousness. And then we're aware of them, and we go, oh, I'm feeling happy right now. Wow, that's nice. Or, oh, I feel really irritable right now. We know that from our body and from our mind. And what Buddhist practice, best practice, right effort, right diligence says is that when we have an awareness of a wholesome seed coming up, we savor it. We just sit there with it, and eventually it goes back down into the store consciousness. And we also know that we can call those seeds up on purpose. We learn how to do that. And so then when these seeds come into our mind consciousness and we hold them, they go back and they become stronger. And so they're more likely to come up in the future, and they're more likely to be more available to us. When an unwholesome seed comes up, we also know it. I don't like this, or this is unpleasant, or this is uncomfortable. And then the instruction is to surround it with our mindfulness, to be able to hold it in a way that's gentle, and to see it for what it is. And when it goes back down, it becomes smaller and less likely to come up in the future. And when we're very practiced, we can bring these seeds up on purpose and be prepared to hold them with our mindfulness. One important thing is to know when we have the capacity to hold the seed, meaning that we stay within this area of mindfulness. Now, what happens normally is one of these unwholesome seed comes up and it takes us off guard, and we feel very uncomfortable, and we might want to get away from it really fast. Maybe we don't want to look at it, or maybe we get so absorbed in it, it's like it's really happening. And so our challenge is to know, are we in this zone when we're asked to look at this mindfully? Or have we bounced out, or even bounced down here? So we're asking ourselves, do I have the capacity in this moment to surround this with mindfulness, or am I surrounding it with impulsiveness or irritability? And when we notice that we don't have the capacity, we go back to nourishing these wholesome seeds. We begin to notice, am I here or am I here? Am I here or am I down here? And we use our mindfulness only in this arena, and we use tools to bring us back in when we don't have the capacity to be holding it with mindfulness. And that's very important. So our practice is to be aware in each moment of our breath and our body, and to know when the mindfulness is available and when we may be carried away in a way that our mindfulness is not available. And this is very important to discern, whether we're carried away by anger or by sadness, by irritation or anxiety. There comes a point where we can no longer be mindful and see it as it is, and that we may, on occasion, be carried away by that limbic system. This morning, I sat with difficulty, that something I don't like about myself, and I was feeling very solid. So I surrounded that difficulty with mindfulness, and I was holding it tenderly, not trying to judge myself. And as I held it, I began to feel my body becoming more tense. And at one point, I said to myself, that's enough. I know that even though I am uncomfortable, if I continue with this, I'm going to be hijacked by that limbic system. And so I did one of the things that brings me back into that mindful zone, which is to bring up an image of well-being with my dog, and petting my dog and feeling how the body begins to re-regulate, how the nervous system comes back into a place of mindfulness. And I just sat with that, and that was enough for today. Tomorrow I may try again to see if I can even make that little window of tolerating that sensation bigger, but in a gentle way. Some of us quit too early, and some of us hang in there far too long. And we want to make sure that we find a middle way of just the right amount of holding of those difficult emotions, and to really rest, not only during formal practice, but all day long, in what is wholesome, what is bringing us joy, delight, what is bringing us relaxation, so that we build up stamina to be able to encounter those unwholesome mind states, unwholesome body states, with more equanimity. Well, I've learned to read my body, and probably the biggest thing for me is how I've learned to calm my body and my mind, so that I can access closer and closer to reality. It's taken me a long time. My nervous system is very tight. I inherited chemically and historically a dysregulated nervous system. And the more that I've learned about how the nervous system works and how Buddhist practice really hones the ability to regulate the nervous system, this has been my greatest happiness, because it stood in the way of me being able to access understanding and harmony in my relationships and the relationship with the outer world. And it was understanding that my nervous system gets hijacked easily, and I need a lot of tools to re-regulate it so that I can stay mindful. And it's increased my happiness tremendously. Both the amount of delight that I see around me in the natural world and in my personal relationships.
And you feel part of a community?
That's what drew me in the first place. I am my most relaxed when I'm just a cell in a larger body. And I feel that here. I feel there's a sense of acceptance, of understanding that it takes a long time to transform our sufferings. And we can, as I learn to appreciate how much energy and diligence it takes to transform myself, I become more accepting of others and their shortcomings and the crazy ways we act with each other. But it takes being aware of the body and taking good care of the body. Not just the food we eat, but the sense impressions and the mind states that we allow ourselves to get into. It's in service of being a skillful part of a larger whole. And that when you practice at home and you're isolated, you can create a certain amount of concentration and insight, but unless you get to be a part of a community, you don't really get to use that skillfulness that you develop in sitting meditation to its fullest, to reach out and help others by your friendship, by your skillfulness in understanding and accepting each other, and by working together and encountering difficulties and working through them. And so part of the hope with these little videos is that it draws you into the community. Whether we're limited right now in this moment to a virtual community, it's still a community, and we can still make connections. They may be uncomfortable when they're virtual, but they're certainly better than being isolated, and they give us a much deeper kind of practice.